The Minnesota Vikings have been around since 1961. And we just want them to win a damn Super Bowl before we die. Welcome to Before We Die with Jesse and Thor on Purple Daily and Score North.
Hello, everybody. We are here with Before We Die on Purple Daily and Score North, your Thursday edition. Hopefully you checked out Monday's edition where we kind of put a wrap and a bow on your 4-1 Minnesota Vikings, who, guys, are set to face the Miami Dolphins. I'm Jesse Pierce from NHL.com, Bar Down Beauties podcast. Go Wild hockey opener tonight as well, but we're taking Vikings. The Vikings first broke my heart in 1998, along with the rest of you. I still jam out to that KDWB We're Going to Miami song, even though it never happened. He's Thor Nystrom from Fantasy Pros and Betting Pros, constantly losing money on the Vikings, occasionally winning, though, Thor?
Always winning. Mostly winning.
He
lies.
Well, he lies. That's not, yeah, whatever, Thor. Fine. That's cool. And Ross Brendel, our producer, he enjoys Vikings pain because, Ross, why?
Lets me know I'm still alive.
We're all still alive again. This is Purple Dailies Before We Die on Score North. So, guys, teased it already a little bit. No, not the Minnesota Wild opener, which is going to be great, guys. It's going to be fantastic. But football, Minnesota Vikings visiting the Miami Dolphins, which at the beginning of the year was a big, what are they going to do? This is going to be a tough one. But now you have, no, you don't have Tua. Oh, no, you don't have Teddy. Nope. Now you have something called a Skylar Thompson starting at quarterback for the Dolphins. Let's just start right there. We'll get into the number of injuries that the Miami Dolphins have. Did I say Thompson? Yeah, that's what I said, right, guys?
Yeah, you had it.
I'm second guessing myself because I always am overcorrecting on the name. So
is it Rager or Raygor?
I mean, if you ask our friend Thor, it's Raygor, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, rookie quarterback.
Carry on.
Don't drag me into this.
Rookie quarterback Skylar Thompson to start. Does that make you nervous at all? Are you going to see a standout rookie showing from Skylar, or is it going to be about what you might expect it to be?
Well, those are two different questions. Am I concerned? No. No, I'm not. But could he acquit himself better than he did last week against the Jets, where he did not look very good against the Jets when he came on in relief of Teddy? The Vikings defense could facilitate that. I saw some things on Twitter, some knuckleheads making some jokes about how the Vikings were going to turn Skylar into a rookie of the year candidate. But overall, I'm not concerned about, I've seen plenty of Skylar Thompson. As you guys know, I'm a Kansas grad who covers college football for a living. I watch plenty of Kansas State football. Skylar Thompson, I think I just briefly mentioned hit on this in the last show, but he's got a little bit of athleticism. He's got a decent arm, but he's coming from a non-pro style offense. He flashed in the preseason a little bit, but against these vanilla defenses, against guys that were summarily cut, right? Like, because when Skylar Thompson was coming in the preseason, invariably he was playing against third stringers or four stringers or whatever. We saw last week he was playing against a team that wasn't very good, and they whipped him. Mm-hmm. I'm not concerned about Skylar Thompson. No.
I mean, Skylar Thompson, a 7th round pick in 2022, but Ross,
it's just past April.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But we also know how Minnesota tends to do against backups, but this is the backup to the backup. So maybe that trend stops now.
Yeah, maybe it gets thrown out the window, or maybe the gut punch is twice as painful. I guess we'll find out on Sunday. I'm not super worried. This is a road game in the sense that it's obviously not in Minneapolis. It's not in London. It's a true road game, but I do expect there to be plenty of Minnesota Vikings fans there, as there almost always are when the Vikings go on the road, but there's always more in Arizona, in Florida, and on the coast. So I don't know if it's a true road game, so I have some confidence that Vikings fans will travel, help out the local 22. What Thor talked about with Skylar's athleticism, that's what scares me a little bit based off of what we've seen from Vikings teams, not only this year, but in recent history in the last few years, taking on those quarterbacks like Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, those guys that can move and get outside of the pocket and make plays. I'm interested to see what type of offense Miami draws up for Skylar now that they've had a week to prepare knowing that he is the guy. I expect that the Vikings will figure it out, but I definitely think there'll be some wrinkles put into play by the Miami Dolphins offense that you haven't seen, just because they know they're going to have to do a lot of things to help out their quarterback. But also, I expect to see the Dolphins run the ball an awful lot. Raheem Mostert ran for almost 100 yards last week. The Vikings are giving up the 10th most yards in the NFL to running backs heading into this game. I think the Vikings are going to see a heavy dose of the ground game. I don't know how I feel about that based off of what we've seen from the Vikings defense so far this year. If they can't stop the run and the run gets going, well, that's going to open up things for our buddy Skylar Thompson. So we'll see how it goes. Overall, I'm confident and optimistic. But yes, the Vikings fan in me is mildly terrified that another quarterback nobody's ever heard of is going to make a name for himself.
You never, ever know. Ross, you had mentioned going down to Miami.
We're going to Miami.
We like
Welcome to Miami.
Bienvenido. Anyway, that is home for Dalvin Cook. However, he had a great, they said it, saying it's always good getting back to some warm weather. Minnesota is upon us right now. As you can tell by the way I'm dressed, which I'm assuming he was wearing a sweatshirt of some sort like us Minnesotans tend to do because it is cold today, along with the stocking cap. He also said it's going to be a good Sunday. Go down there, play some football, get a win, and get out of there. Is it going to be another big game for Dalvin? We saw some really fantastic things last week. Is it going to be another Dalvin game?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, we'll get to the props here in a little bit with the Thor's hammer, but spoiler alert, I'm going to be going over on the Dalvin rushing, his rushing prop. Dalvin last week he looked really, really good, and the offensive line is coalescing. It's gone in conjunction with that. So I would expect a big game from Dalvin. And also, a part of the reason I think that is because of the way that I think the game script will go, the part of the way that I think this game's going to go with the Vikings controlling it. I think the second half, you're going to see a lot of running.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think the other thing that bodes well for your Minnesota Vikings heading into Miami on Sunday, injuries. We're kind of getting to that point of the season where injuries are catching up with a lot of teams, namely Miami, who has a long list of players on their injury report compared to the just a few for the Minnesota Vikings. Limited participation for the Vikings, Zadarius Smith, Alexander Mattson, Caleb Evans. Everybody else had participated. Full participation, Jalen Naylor, who had a hamstring issue. However, the big one that Miami is obviously questioning, is he going to be good to go? Wide receiver Tyreek Hill. He was in full participation at practice with a quad foot injury. How do we feel? Do we think Tyreek is going to be good to go and active on Sunday, or are the Vikings going to luck out and miss out on Hill running up a couple yards, possible touchdowns?
Well, the Dolphins, I read the reports today of what they were saying today. They're displaying public optimism that he's going to be on the field and he's going to be active and he's going to be playing in this game. But keep in mind, he was in a walking boot last week. He's got this left foot injury. His entire game, it's not predicated on ball skills and beating people with the ball in the air. It's predicated on his athleticism. Any depreciation of either his movement or his straight line speed, it depreciates his overall utility. So if we're getting 90% of Tyreek Hill or 85%, which I assume we will be if he's going to play, that also plays in the Vikings' favor. This is, both Hill and Waddle are the exact type of receivers that terrify me as a Vikings fan, because the outside corners that the Vikings have, that's the thing that scares you, is them trailing the extremely explosive, shifty guys in the open field. Well, if Tyreek Hill either doesn't play or his athleticism is taking a shot, that's a very good thing for the Vikings.
Well, and I would say this too, to at least try and give Ed Donatel some props, because the last few weeks on this pod, we haven't been too kind to him. This is what his defense is supposed to do. It's supposed to keep guys like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle in front of you and minimize the big play. So if both of those guys play, in theory, Ed Donatel's defense should be able to limit the big plays over top. What I'm worried about is the 7 to 10 catches that are caught underneath that go from 8 yards to 15 to 20 yards, because you don't have guys in position to make tackles. If both of those guys play, Tyreek Hill, that one guy plays. If Tyreek Hill plays and Jalen Waddle's playing like we believe him to be playing and we know he's playing, the Vikings have to figure out how to slow them down. And if, by the way, if Tyreek Hill doesn't play and Skylar Thompson is the starting quarterback, it is a massive failure if the Vikings can't win the game. You should win this game irregardless. You need to win it if Tyreek Hill's not playing.
I mean, I know I'm happy that if Tyreek Hill doesn't play because I'm going up against him in this week's fantasy football matchup, and we all know how much I truly admire my fantasy team, my fantasy football.
Obligatory fantasy football mention.
I force it even more now just so we can play that that little bit because I love it. But that's a true story. I am going up against Tyreek Hill, and I really wish I hope he doesn't play for that reason. Beyond that, again, Miami Dolphins coach Mike McDaniel had this to say about their injury in adversity in our second. They said it.
They said it.
I love these.
I love them. I love them. Quote, being in the National Football League, whether you're a coach or a player, is hard. All things are worth achieving are hard. I think I would feel guilt and feel as though I was shortchanging the Dolphins and the team if I was spending any time thinking about how hard it is. I mean, that's what you got to do, I guess, right? That's a great statement from a coach. I mean, it is. It's hard. It's going to be hard week in and week out, no matter who you have playing, who you have starting at quarterback. This is just especially hard, I think, for Miami, especially when they started out so strong and looked so good behind Tua. And I'm kind of bummed. I like Teddy. We all like Teddy still, right? I mean, you still feel for Teddy. But it's going to be a very, very uphill battle, especially with a defense that is now again trying to stop Justin Jefferson, who continues to be on the up and up. Speaking of JJ, are the Dolphins up for that challenge? Are they going to be able to put the pressure on Jefferson and slow him down? Because again, we saw him really open it up. Credit to Kirk Cousins as well for throwing some dime passes too.
No, they're not. The Dolphins secondary is not good. The strength of their defense, it's the run defense. I'm more bullish on Delvin because of the way I think the game is going to go, like I was mentioning earlier. But the enormous mismatch in this game, it's the Vikings receivers against the defensive backfield of the Miami Dolphins. If Kirk Cousins is clicking on Sunday, they are going to pile up yardage through the air. And yeah, I expect a big game from Jefferson, unless Miami wants to do the thing of we're going to the two defenders on him the entire game, in which case the rest of the Vikings offensive players should have big games.
Yeah, Thor, we've talked about this before. If Justin Jefferson doesn't have a big game, that means he's being schemed to be doubled and tripled.
That's right.
That means your Irv Smiths, your Adam Thielens, your KJ Osborns, your Johnny Muntz. I'll say this just for fun. 'Tis the season of Ham, your CJ Hams. They should be making extra catches and racking up the yards. It's one or the other, right? Either JJ's dominating the game or everybody else is. And I'm hopeful that this offense is going to get to that point where each game we're going to know they're going to come out and score at least 24 points. And if they do that, then I think you'll start to feel more comfortable about the defense, because then it's not the defense has to stop everybody. It's, the defense just has to be good enough to slow the other team down a little bit.
That being said, can the Vikings do that? We have talked about especially secondary defense. I mean, last week we saw against the Bears a comeback, 19 straight points. You can't hold the lead. I mean, Minnesota did everything right to start that game, and it's exactly what we projected. I'm expecting the same exact thing to happen in Miami. But can they hold on to it? Can we not have a close game? Can we have a game that the spread is, more than 7? Can we beat that spread? Can we outkick that? What do you guys think? Is it going to be another close one, or are the Vikings going to finally put the pedal down and not let up?
I'm going to take the Vikings to cover. I'm surprised with what's happened with the line. It was 3.5, and when they announced that Skylar Thompson was going to start, I thought for sure it was going to toggle up to 5 real quick. It's actually has gone to 3 at a whole bunch of different books, which might provide a
Vikings
value.
Gonna Viking, I guess, huh?
Well, maybe the market, that's what they expect based on historical precedent. But back to Ross's point, I mean, like if the Vikings do lose to this team that has 18 players listed on its injury report, including numerous key contributors and starters, that would be very bad, very, very bad. And going up against the rookie 7th round pick, going back to Skylar Thompson's game, there are physical tools there, but again, he doesn't know how to learn how to read NFL defenses yet. There's no way, and it's not his fault. There's no way he could have at this point, because again, he was, he's in the Big 12 last year. He played 5 years in college. He was playing in a non-pro style offense. The issue with Skylar Thompson's game, and the reason that a whole bunch of draft guys knocked him down, he puts the ball up for grabs too often, makes wonky decisions too often, and he also has a fumbling problem. I believe in the last game, I wasn't watching it live, but I believe he had a key fumble in his first extended action last weekend, which was sort of part and parcel of his time at Kansas State. Over his 5 years at Kansas State, according to PFF, he had 63 big-time throws, which that was solid, but he had 41 turnover-worthy throws, which is elevated over the amount of throws that he had during that time. I think you can expect the Vikings defense to get a couple of turnovers in this game. And if they don't, it wouldn't speak well to them if they don't.
Thor, don't the Vikings have to figure out a way, whether it's with the front three or however you want to term it, front four, or by blitzing, you have to put pressure on this kid.
Yeah.
You have to speed the game up for him. And don't just assume that he's going to make those mistakes with your on a shell soft defense. You got to force the issue and make him feel uncomfortable. You don't have to blitz every play. That's not what I'm saying, but you got to figure out a way to make him uncomfortable and make him uncomfortable early. Don't let the Dolphins hang around. Don't do what you did with the Chicago Bears. To Jesse's point, you can scroll back through the Vikings the last 5 years. You can count on basically two hands how many how many more than one score games they play in. For the love of all that is holy, beat somebody handily. Just let us watch a game in comfort.
I know, right? Well, and I mean, keeping on the defense or keeping down on that defense, Minnesota, obviously, they're 14th in points allowed at 20.4 points per game, but they struggle to ever get off the field. They are 20th in third down percentage at 36.2% and 29th in red zone percentage at 76.9, allowing 10 touchdowns on 13 drives that made it to the red zone. Like, it needs to stop. And I mean, with that being said, where we're at in the season, do you think it's possible or likely even that Minnesota decides to maybe fix the defense via the trade deadline that is fast approaching? Or is that, I mean, we can dive more into this as that gets closer and closer. But I think, again, against Miami, it's another good test. Like, what can we fix? Who can we move? Chris Boyd comes to mind.
Yeah, well, yeah, and to the point about if the
STFU, Jesse, STFU.
Yeah, I'm not touching that one. I don't want Boyd to come after me. But I mean, to the point about the trade, I was on Write That Down yesterday, and one of my 3 predictions was the Vikings will make a trade before the deadline. It makes all kinds of sense. Kwesi was very aggressive during the draft, and he was very aggressive around cut day. I think leading up to the trade deadline, you're going to see him get aggressive again. He ain't going to force anything, I don't think. But he is going to call everybody. He is going to check in with every team that has an asset that he thinks might help the Vikings. And if it doesn't break the bank to do it, I think he's going to go out and get it. And I think the 2 positions to look at, it's inline tight end. And Jesse, you alluded to it. It's cornerback. Both they could use an outside corner. They could also use a slot corner. Don't tell Shannon Sullivan I said that. I don't want him to come after me either. The Vikings secondary is there's a sensitivity problem there as well.
A little bit. I think so. I can't get so emotional. You're just, let's get it together, you guys. I mean, come on. This will bring us to my next favorite point. My first, something I forgot to mention. I am, the only thing that scares me about the Dolphins is that they removed the ping pong table in order to really focus and hone in on the game. I found that just
such a stupid story.
I saw that too.
What? That's so ridiculous. Like, we have to make a big deal that we will not be playing ping pong so we can prepare. Like,
the Vikings, by the way, like all the reporters that have been in that building, all the TVs they had and all the nice fireplaces in the facility, they were always off during the Zimmer era. And so a lot of them were commenting when they went in with O'Connell as the coach. Now they're all on, and they were making the jokes of like, oh, the TVs work. Has that hurt the Vikings' concentration and their performance so far? This is so stupid. Even the idea that a professional athlete whose entire livelihood is based on the work he does on the field, that a friggin' ping pong game is going to distract him from it insults it insults the intelligence of every person out there that has to read that story. And it's ridiculous that the team even puts it out there to try to be like, oh yeah, we're gonna get back on track after we just got our butts kicked by the Jets because we're getting rid of those ping pong tables.
Maybe get a little game of pelt going. I don't know. You'll be fine, right? Just toughen up.
You're going to get a game of pelt on Sunday.
Yeah. Boom. And we're back in. With that, I'd like to bring up today's Thor's Hammers.
Yeah.
Thor's Hammers.
All righty, let's get going. Okay, so the first one, Kirk Cousins passing yardage prop, 269.5 yards. Jesse, we'll start with you. Over or under?
Under.
Okay. Ross?
I'll go under too.
I am also going to go under. So we don't often get
We
the
don't
three-person
often all
agreement.
agree. Yes.
Okay. We're all going under. The Delvin Cook rushing prop, which I had mentioned earlier, is set at, it opened at 73.5 yards. Jesse, over or under?
Over.
Okay.
Over. Yep, over.
We have agreement on the
we're cooking.
panel again. I'm going over as well. The next one, Justin Jefferson. We were just talking about him. His receiving yardage prop number is 89.5. Jesse, over or under?
Over.
Okay.
I gotta go under unless he's monopolizing the less than 269. I'll go under.
This is a tough one for reasons that we've talked about before, because the opposing team, by their strategy, can put it under, but then they could leave themselves exposed on the back end. But I'm going to go over on Jefferson, just because the Dolphins secondary is that bad. Next one, Adam Thielen's receiving prop is 52.5 yards for Sunday. Jesse, over or under?
I mean, I put all that money in the bank on Thielen last week, and it just went the complete opposite of what I had.
Are you going to turn on him?
What'd you say it was 52?
52.5.
Yeah, turn on it. Maybe he'll do better then. Maybe it's me. It's my reverse jinx. I like to do that in a lot of facets.
Like
so, yep, under.
So you're going under, Ross?
He'll go over. That's one 30, 40-yard shot and another catch and run. He'll go over.
This is probably the hardest one for me. I'm right on the line of this one, but I'm going to just shade it under. And I had one last one for today because it's been in the news about Greg Joseph has missed the last 4 50+ yard attempts or whatever. We love Ross. I know you love talking about Greg Joseph. So I had to sneak this one in. Longest field goal made on Sunday, over or under 46.5 yards. Now this one, it's both teams. So it's not just Joseph, it's also the Dolphins. But Jesse, longest field goal, 46.5 yards, over or under?
Over.
Okay.
Who's kicking for the Dolphins? Is it still Jason Sanders?
Are we going to get some advanced analysis of the?
That's not a super hard stadium to kick in. The Dolphins are going to want points any way they can get them. So I think the Dolphins will attempt probably a field goal beyond 50 yards.
That's true. Is this attempt? Sorry.
It's
make. Yes.
But I'm reasonably confident there'll be 2 field goals attempted farther than 47 yards, and one of the 2 kickers will make them. So I'll take that.
It is Jason Sanders. Last week he had a 46-yard.
So Sanders or Saunders?
It's definitely Sanders.
I'm a great place kicker, mind.
His longest field goal of the year is 49 yards. So it is cutting it close, especially with Joseph's struggles with the long ones. I'm also going to go over. I'm bullish on you, Greg Joseph. Ross may have started to doubt you a little bit, but there is no doubt on this end. I'm going over.
The secondary can tell me to STFU, but not you, Greg Joseph. I believe in you too.
There won't be the door problem there in Miami.
Speaking of STFU, we have plenty of YouTube comments that we'd like to share with you guys as well. Ross, hit us with some of those YouTube comments.
Let me first play that wonderful open. I hit the wrong button. One of these days I'll learn how to be an award-winning producer. Oh, well, let's not start with that.
Comments from YouTube.
All right. This is from my new stepdad. Danielle is being wasted. The way we're using him, he's an overpaid backup outside linebacker. Get his hands back in the turf and let's go.
I like it. Is
Guys?
that really your new stepdad?
Respect.
No. That's the name. That's the name of the guy.
Oh, that's not your stepdad.
No.
Just to clarify. Okay.
Oh, that was awesome. That was awesome.
That was real.
So the real question here, Jesse and Thor, is Danielle currently being wasted? from my new stepdad on YouTube.
Yeah, stepdad, Ross's stepdad. He is. He is being wasted. I mean, but like, it was like this experiment. We didn't know how it was going to go, right? Like, he's the stud 4-3 defensive end. I mean, some of the guys you transition to the 3-4 rushing outside linebacker, and it goes like gangbusters. The hope is that eventually and hopefully real soon that it's going to convert into that. But yeah, it just hasn't been so far. But the problem with it, that the guy, the stepdad, he mentioned that, put his hand back in the dirt. The problem with that is you can't play him as a 3-4 interior defensive lineman. Mm-hmm. It's not his game. He's too light. His game is based on the athleticism and the movement on the outside and the bag of tricks he got on the outside. In the 3-4 defense, you need those three guys to be the war daddies. Yeah. They're not out there getting the sacks. They're out there banging people's heads, occupying the offensive linemen so that the linebackers can flow and make the tackles. That's not Danielle's game. So, I mean, if this doesn't work out this year, then maybe you consider trading him in the offseason, because certainly 4-3 teams would line up for his services.
Right.
But yeah, right now we're still waiting. Slow acclimation process.
Well, exactly. And I think didn't Donatell say that this week too? He said he's got to get acclimated. He's expecting that Hunter was going to come out like this, have a little skimpier of a start. I think the concerning factor is he is the second highest paid player on the Minnesota Vikings. So you hate to see that literally the money go to waste. But I do feel like that there is a breakdown.
Jesse, I do have to correct you. Dead cap is
dead money.
Highest. Yeah. Dead money is the second highest paid player. Danielle Hunter is third.
Fair.
Yeah,
all right.
Cap is having a decent
actual player. Yeah, he's the second highest.
Actual player. Exactly. Sorry, guys. Apologies.
This next one's a bit long-winded, but I like the question, so stick with me here. This is from Bart Wyden on the YouTube machine. Our defense is a mix of three players on their last leg, a couple of mismatch players to the 3-4, and some rookies, and others are injured and not ready to take over. The 3-4 of Ed's is meant to help compensate. The personnel isn't there or available for a much better defense. It will have to be gutted this offseason to make room for current rookies and additional draft choices. So the question, is it too early to judge Ed Donatell?
Because there's no D. Guys,
in Donatell.
In case you've missed any of our most recent episodes of Before We Die, that's where that's coming from.
I'll actually answer this first if you don't mind.
Please.
It's not too early to have questions. I think this could be, unless it was the worst defense in the NFL, Ed Donatell's not getting fired after this year. Even if it's a porous, bad defense, there's a reason why they hired him. They're going to give him a chance for at least 2 seasons to make this work. So it's too early to call for the guy's dismissal. For as much as I've been ripping him, I would agree with that. It's not too early to say, okay, you don't have the players for the scheme you want to run. Could you try and run a scheme for the players that you do have?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would say.
Yeah, I don't think that's I mean, like, you can do there's other teams that run the multiple fronts, right? So on some plays you have the 4-man front, right? And then maybe you have 2 off-ball linebackers, or I mean, like, you can switch it around however. I suppose in their base they do have the 2 with the 2 edge rushers, but you can switch the configuration around if you want. But Donatell hasn't done that so far, right? Like, he's just stuck with the 3-4. I don't think that would be a bad idea. But to the guy who asked the question, to his point, that's the one caveat that you give to well, I suppose there's 2 caveats. Is the talent isn't like awesome, like the best defensive players they have, they're aging, and then some of the defensive starters they have, they're guys that they're actively looking to replace. For instance, Cam Bynum. It's why he used the first round pick on Louis Zine. But so you give them that caveat, and then also the transition period from the 4-3 to the 3-4. But I totally agree with what Ross said. It was well said that it is not too early to have questions about Ed Donatell, and certainly we have been asking them week by week since after week 1.
Hey, can I throw a grenade here though?
Sure.
Do we also, to take some of the pressure off the defense, which has been inefficient, looking particularly back to that Chicago Bears game, Do we also have to place quite a bit amount of blame on the offense who were not able to score and push it down, therefore allowing the defense to be on the field more and therefore allowing more of those points? I mean, I think that gets lost in the shuffle a little bit too. Like, what happened there that all of a sudden the offense wasn't able to produce, putting the defense out there on the field more often? I mean, there's something. Talk amongst yourselves about that.
100%. It would be helpful if the offense wouldn't have these moments in the second half where they're not nearly as good as they were in the first half. And I think some of that just goes back to KOC learning the game, learning how to call the game, learning how to adjust to the other team's adjustments. I agree with that. But at some point, your defense is going to have to step up and win you games, which to their credit, they have, but they haven't played maybe the best teams in the NFC or the NFL, and the one team that they did, they got the doors blown off on Monday night at Philadelphia. Yes, the offense needs to be better, but I still think the defense needs to step up and not allow huge chunk play after chunk play.
Yeah, 1,000%. And until the Vikings have the trump card outside cornerback, there's going to be days like these, right? Like they're going to get.
Mama did say
that there would be.
Mama did say that. Way to go, Jesse.
And so did the stepdad, too, that asked that question earlier.
Stepdad, your Ross's stepdad.
Ross's stepdad.
We got one more.
Stepdad. My new stepdad.
Do we got one more?
I got one. I got one more for you, and we'll make it quick. This is from Tim Forcian on the YouTube machine. Cook hasn't been getting enough touches for him to get cooking. He needs at least 15 to 25 touches per game. Get him rolling and put Jalen Reagor in the backfield and Kene Nwangu. Oh, those boys can fly. Do we need to feed Cook more? Or do you like the split that we've seen at the beginning of the year, which I think we've all talked about is designed to keep him healthy into the season, later into the season?
I like the split that we're getting. I mean, like as far as the rushing touches, I don't disagree with that. But in terms of the usage on the field, I still want the passing down work going to Alexander Mattison. He's a better pass blocker, arguably a better receiver, and it gives it gives Dalvin Cook a chance to rest. And we saw last week when the snaps were, I think they were roughly 60-40. They might have even been 55-45. That's the most explosive that Dalvin looked. At the age that he's at now, you don't want him gassing him out early in some of these games when you might need him to ice them at the end of it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I like the split. I enjoy it. I think, again, we've talked about it on multiple episodes. Alexander Mattison, a very capable player, excuse me. Oh my, I was going to call him a goaltender for some reason. Guys, I'm losing my mind. Yeah, Minnesota Wild.
You got your first Wild game tonight. It's understandable. It's also,
I get better with a child distracting me than I am doing right now with this hockey game going on.
Madison's also interesting because he is a backup, but I don't think any of us are naive enough to think he won't be starting for somebody else next year. Yeah, so he's a good player.
I like it. Well, those are good comments. You guys rock for dropping your comments, engaging, interacting, even poking fun at us. We love it. We love the engagement because, again, this is Before We Die on Purple Daily and Score North. Let's wrap it up as we do every single episode with a couple Before We Dies. Ross, why don't you?
Time now for the Before We Die crew to give us their Before We Dies.
Well, I'll just tell you before we die, I won't cut you off when I play that open.
That's all right. Before
we're learning, we're getting there. Before we die, I won't cut you off. And I was thinking about this. Vikings play the Dolphins. Miami Dolphins have shown up in a couple of movies, right? Ace Ventura, and what's the one with Brett Favre? Why am I blanking? Brett Favre
is all we need, though, really.
Okay,
there's one about stealing welfare from the people of Mississippi, or
let's not go there right now. Before we die, the Minnesota Vikings will be kind of themed in a movie, and I know they were. There was that Tom Clancy one where the Vikings were in the Super Bowl, which is insert jokes there about the Vikings and one-time almost owner of the Minnesota Vikings, Tom Clancy. But the Minnesota Vikings will be in or mildly featured in a comedy film before we die.
I can kind of go off that because I was going to say this one last week, and I did. It was when we were playing Detroit. I was going to toss this out that Before We Die, the Minnesota Vikings are going to be a Hard Knocks feature. I think I could see it even like next season, right? You've got this new young head coach. You've got Justin Jefferson. Why the heck not? Put him on HBO. Get him on Hard Knocks. That's my Before We Die. You will see the Minnesota Vikings as a selected team for HBO's Hard Knocks.
My before we die is we're gonna get a Minnesota trifecta this weekend. The Wild are gonna win the opener tonight. I don't even know who they're playing, but it's gonna happen. And then the Gophers
I have to teach you better, Thor. I apologize. We didn't get in our fantasy hockey this year either. It's just been,
Who are they playing? Like the Rangers or something?
The Rangers of New York. Yes.
Wait, are they really?
They really are. Yeah.
Okay, that was a total guess. Okay, awesome. We're gonna beat the Rangers. Then Illinois, the Gophers are playing them. They're gonna beat Illinois. Got like half the it's like the Dolphin thing, and then the Vikings are gonna beat the Dolphins.
I support it.
I like that. This is a kind of de facto Big Ten West elimination game for the Gophers. They need to win it. So I like your positivity there, Thor.
I like it. Always positivity. Again, I'm Jesse Pierce. He's Ross Brundle. He's Thor Nystrom. This is Purple Dailies Before We Die on Score North. Vikings episodes every single Monday and Thursday. As always, we appreciate you guys checking us out. Check out all the other Purple Daily content for all your Vikings news, positivity, and negativity. Judd. And me sometimes too. Sorry. And
you Packers fan.
I'm wearing green today. I apologize. It's a wild green. All right. Well, let's take it easy. You guys rock. Keep checking us out. Keep chatting, and we'll see you on Monday. Go Vikes.
Skol Vikings.